Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Geoffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health, and really without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
Some say touch the sky. Some say they see the wind. A whisper of spring is near. Can you hear it say, these are Mulberry days?
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Welcome to episode 131 of Nerdery and Murdery.
Big 131. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey with your murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, and the up and down, the good and the bad, the nerd and the murd. I know we're well past this when this episode comes out, but for us, it was just a week ago. Had a great New Year's weekend.
Yes.
I drove from South Texas back up to Dallas-Fort Worth, and Mike from Two Geeks and a Microphone and his wife drove from St. Louis down to DFW to see the Cowboys game. We all got to get together. There's pictures out on our TikTok and YouTube that have been out there about it. That was really cool to meet Mike in person. I had a great time. It was a long weekend. I mean, Sunday I drove on New Year's Eve. I drove all the way back and then had to go to a dinner that night, but had a wonderful beef Wellington. I love beef Wellington.
Beef Wellington.
Yes, I love it. It was a really good dinner that we went to. Had to dress up for it. So since I lost so much weight, none of my really good clothes fit. So I had to go out and buy a new suit and everything.
I'm so sorry.
Because it was,
well, I'm not sorry that you've lost, because you look great, by the way.
It was required formal attire, so I had to go get a new suit.
I think I put a picture of that on the TikTok. You look pretty dapper there, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, but I did not make it to midnight after that long trip of over 72 hours, travel over 1,000 miles. I was tired,
Yeah.
so I did not make it to midnight. Um, I did want to put a task out there to all of our fans because one of our fans, someone I knew from high school, sent me a message that they really liked our Laugh Out Loud Movies episode
Uh-huh.
and gave me one that I thought about. It just didn't hit my top 5, but it's definitely a Laugh Out Loud movie. So I'm giving a call out to the fans. We would love to do a fan curated episode of
Yes.
Laugh Out Loud movies. So send in your lists. And I would say if we get to 5 to 10, we'll give them a watch ourselves
That's
and
right.
give our reviews of that. So please do send those in. I would love to do that fan episode. So that'll be something that'll be coming up.
Yes. Let us know. And let us know if you want us to mention you on the air as well.
Yeah.
Because we'd be happy to do it.
Absolutely. And he didn't say I could, but this was an old friend of mine, Paul from high school, who he's an avid listener. He listens every single week. He doesn't miss an episode. So,
Oh, Paul? Is it the same Paul I'm thinking of?
no, it is
Okay.
not. I don't. I'm near positive you never met Paul.
Okay.
Near positive. Paul was a great guy. Really, really loved hanging out with him in high school. We were kind of delinquents, so.
Yeah, that's good.
And I don't know if you saw my picture I put out on Facebook yesterday of the pelicans that were out on the golf course when we were out yesterday. My God, there were a lot of them. Those things are so damn big.
Yeah, brown pelicans were they brown pelicans?
No, white.
White pelicans. Pelicans are huge.
Yeah, I didn't realize how huge they were because I mean we've got a lot of them out on the course, but it was just an amazing amount yesterday. I couldn't believe it. I posted a picture about that. So, and there's also a picture on my Facebook about my creeper dog. So check that out as well.
She joined us in an episode.
Yes, Jana did join us in an exclusive episode. So that's all I have going on with me. Zig, what you got?
Construction is finally progressing. 60-year-old pipes have to be replaced before you can tie into them. Did not realize that.
Yeah.
And Azel water is the worst, which is why I'm glad we got a water softener because it's going to help for the pipes in the future.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So we were down to one bathroom. We're back up to 2 bathrooms now, but I still can't drain in the sink because they're still working on it in the kitchen sink. So hand washing dishes in a bathroom sink or in a kitchen sink with a bowl underneath it is not fun.
No.
But it's doable.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Zig, why don't you take over on the nerdy side of the house?
Excellent. This is a British sitcom that ran on our local PBS station, KERA, several times. There's not a lot of episodes for it, but it is so poignant and beautiful and funny at the same time. I felt like we needed to talk about it.
I don't know. I missed this one.
Mulberry?
Not familiar with this one at all.
Oh, my. Mulberry is a fantasy sitcom written by John Esmond and Bob Larby that aired on BBC One in the early 90s. Mulberry ran for 2 series. The first series of 6 episodes ran from 24th February to 30th March 92. And the second series of 7 episodes ran from 8th of April to the 25th of May in 1993. A third series was planned, which would have concluded the story and wrap up the plot lines established in the first 2 series, but was canceled before production began. So 13 episodes in, and they were done. The program stars Carl Howman as a mysterious Mulberry, a man who appears at the household of a cantankerous spinster, Rose Farnaby, and applied for a position as her manservant. Miss Farnaby's other staff, Bert and Alice Finch, are immediately suspicious as the position for which Mulberry applied had not yet been advertised. The suspicions were well placed. Mulberry is not all that he seems. In fact, he is an apprentice Grim Reaper who has been dispatched to the house to escort Miss Farnaby to the next world. Surprisingly for a Grim Reaper, Mulberry has a sentimental, even comical side with a love of life and laughter that moves him to dedicate himself to ensuring that the sullen Miss Farnaby's last days on Earth are happy, using his role as servant to put his plans into motion. So basically how this plays out is this is his first job as a Grim Reaper. His father is a Grim Reaper and wants him to take over the family business, and his mother is Springtime. I know it's a weird concept for a series, but this old lady lives in this old crumbling estate that used to be full of people, and now it's just her servant who quits, and the groundskeeper and the cook, and that's it. And they live on this big giant estate. Nobody else. The manservant quits, and Mulberry shows up to apply for the job, but they hadn't posted it yet, so they don't understand how he knew about it. And Mulberry is also anachronistic a little bit. Like the way he dresses, he looks like he could be from the early 1990s, but some of the stuff he wears are from the 1920s or the 1830s. And he's really funny and full of life, and he wants to get everybody together, and they just don't understand it. Basically, the Grim Reaper is like, you need to take this woman, so we can be done and move on to the next person. But Mulberry keeps upping the date, because it's like, this woman has been miserable for 30 years of his life, and he can't figure out why. Because from all outside look, she lives on this family estate. It's been in her family for generations, and that used to be full of life and everything else, but everybody moved away. And it turns out the reason she's still on the estate is nobody else in the family wants it. You know, they want the money from it, but they don't want to stay there and care for it, because it's a dead-end job, basically. And she takes it very seriously. And she's sad and lonely, and he's just this ray of sunshine in everybody's life. But again, everybody's kind of suspicious. She thinks that the cook and the groundskeeper are stealing from her, and they are, but it's because she doesn't pay them enough. They live on site, and they were all friends when they were children. Their families were the servant class to this wealthy aristocratic family for generations. But it's descended into just loneliness and sadness. And then Mulberry comes along and brings them all together, gets them to celebrate Guy Fawkes Day, which is something they do in England we don't do over here. Mm-hmm. It's kind of their version of Halloween. They build a bonfire, they put a fake Guy Fawkes on top of it and set the bonfire up, and then they give out sweet treats and roast marshmallows and all that neat stuff. But it's this, I don't know, it's just amazing. And it's one of those things that very few people know about, even though it was kind of popular in England in the early 90s, but it's one of those things that got real popular and then just went away. And Mulberry's sensitivity and interest in Miss Farnaby well-being do not sit well with Mulberry's father, again, the Grim Reaper. With no interest in human emotions, he appears in most episodes as a mysterious figure billed as the Stranger, in a black hat and dark clothing, urging Mulberry to get on with the job. And Mulberry is not at ease with the task he's been given. His father is annoyed with his dawdling, and Mulberry refuses at first to do the job, putting it off constantly, much to his father's annoyance. And eventually we learn the source of Mulberry's love of life is his mother, Springtime. Mulberry's mother is one of the few things able to move his father, as he grudgingly lets Miss Farnaby have 3 extra months of life and allows Mulberry to stay for that time after his mother visits. Mulberry also meets his mother for the first time, who says she does have some influence on his father. The device of Mulberry's father being death and his mother being springtime is loosely borrowed from Greek mythology. Hades, lord of the underworld, married a young maiden goddess named Persephone. Demeter was her mother and was heartbroken at the fate of Persephone having to live forever in hell. And as the goddess of fertility and agriculture, her grief causes winter to come. As a compromise, it was arranged for Persephone to only spend half the year with her husband. Thus, we have winter and summer annually. Since springtime comes when Persephone returns to the surface, she has become a symbol of youth, rebirth, and spring. However, in Greek mythologies, Hades and Persephone never have any children. Ambiguous references are made to where Mulberry and his father come from and what kind of beings they actually are, but these issues are not resolved in the show due to the cancellation of the series. Much of the show was filmed around Dorset. Exterior shots of the Farnaby estate were filmed at High Hall, a 17th century manor house near Wimborne. Witchhampton was used as exterior shots of the local village, and Angelstone Rock in Swanage is used in a couple of episodes. Additional locations including the former Little Chef. What Little Chefs were a like a casual restaurant in England that don't exist anymore. Almost like their version of a diner. It was the English version of a Denny's, but a little more high end. Mm-hmm. They're all really, really small. But yeah, the thing about this series is it's so sweet and poignant. And the opening is Carl Howman singing the Mulberry Days song. Originally, they were going to get somebody to sing it who was a better singer, because Carl Howman is not. But there's very little music in it, and the opening of him singing it, even though it's a little off key, is really kind of beautiful. And you see shots of him walking with an old deerstalker cap and this old driving coat, which they used to use back in the early 19th century or 20th century. Again, it gives it that anachronistic flair. They changed the cook out in the second season. I think the original actress they had playing the cook was better. The groundskeeper is played by Tony Selby of Doctor Who fame. It's amazing. The cast is really great, and it's small. There's very few people in this series, but it's poignant and funny. Carl Howman is very, very funny. He was an English comedian, up and coming, and they gave him this series and basically just turned him loose. He got to ad-lib a lot of his lines, which makes it great. And you can see the old woman who plays Mrs. Farnaby. Often she has to hide her face during scenes because he's just cracking her up. But you could tell the series was kind of a labor of love. And I wish they'd have gotten 5 to 6 more episodes just to kind of wrap it up. But the 13 is what we have, and it's great. And our local KURA station will run the whole series back to front for 13 weeks on British Comedy Sundays. And then it'll be off the air, and then a year and a half later, they'll run it again. But it's one of those ones that's just beautiful. And the location shots they use, it's very like To the Manor Born. You know, it has that feel to it of this empty old manor house where very few people are living, which used to be full of people. It's lovely and beautiful, and if I would recommend anybody seeing it. I'm pretty sure you can get it on BritBox, and I want to say it's also on Tubi because I just watched it recently. I've also included several episodes in our YouTube playlist, so you can actually see it, including the theme song, which you might agree with me, even though it's a little off key. It's beautiful and very fitting to the series. But yeah, there's not much on Mulberry because again, there was only 13 episodes, but it's one of those shows that every time it's on, I watch it, or every time I catch it.
I'm just surprised. As much as I loved watching British comedies on KERA, I'm surprised I never saw this one.
You never caught Mulberry?
Never even heard of it.
They were rented a lot in the 90s. I think because at the time it was new.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they rented it quite a bit, especially around the time they were running Blackadder. It'd be Blackadder and then Mulberry and then something else.
Yeah, I mean, Blackadder, Good Neighbors, Are You Being Served?
Mm-hmm.
That one with Hyacinth and her husband.
Oh my God.
Dadgummit.
Yeah.
The bouquets.
The Bouquet Residence.
What is the name of that show?
Oh my God. I'm drawing a complete blank. And that show was huge.
I know. Let's see. British. Hyacinth.
Rutledge. Her last name is Rutledge.
Hyacinth.
Priscilla Rutledge.
Keeping Up Appearances.
Keeping Up Appearances.
Jeez.
With Onslow.
Yes.
It was my favorite character.
So funny. But yeah, and this one just never popped up for me. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking us a trip on another TV show. Hopefully some people can get out there and give it a watch, see what they think for themselves.
Yes, enjoy the Mulberry Days.
Yeah.
You're going to want more. That's the only thing I could say about it. You're going to watch it and be like, oh, this is great. Why didn't they do any more? Because they decided not to.
All right. With that, I will step over on the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For today's story, I got my information off Mamma Mia, All That's Interesting, The Herald Sun, Morbidology, and Bugged Space. And this is the story of the murder of Rachel Barber.
Rachel Barber.
So in 1999, Rachel Barber was a teenage dancer on her way to stardom. By all accounts, everyone who knew Rachel thought she'd be a star one day. The 15-year-old was a full-time student at the Dance Factory in Melbourne, Australia, and came from a good family. She had dreams and ambitions of starring in musicals, her favorite of which was Chicago and Cats, which, side note, I hate Cats.
I'm not a big fan of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Never have been.
I can't stand Cats. But anyway.
I want to say this. I like the music in Cats, but I don't like the show itself.
I don't like the show, no. And I've seen it in person. I saw it at the Bass Hall with my mom. So she was popular and was in a steady relationship with a boy who went to the same school as her. She was beautiful, athletic, tall, and, quote, elfin-featured with brilliant emerald eyes. Off the stage, Rachel was an unexpectedly shy teenager, especially with people she didn't know. Her mother, Elizabeth Barber, once said, quote, she wasn't interested in schoolwork, but had a talent for dancing. She had loving parents, Elizabeth and Michael Barber, two younger sisters, Heather and Ashley Rose, and a devoted boyfriend, Manny Carella. And the Barber family's babysitter, Caroline Reed Robertson, was very jealous of her. She was the Barbers' trusted babysitter. Bum, bum, bum.
Dumb.
Caroline Robertson was 19 years old, and according to her, Rachel Barber was everything that she wasn't. She once wrote in her journal that Barber was strikingly attractive with very clear, pale skin and hypnotic green eyes. Meanwhile, she described herself as a pizza face with brown, oily hair and no coordination. Caroline had always felt dissatisfied with herself and often used derogatory terms to describe herself, such as loser, unwanted, dirty, obese, and funny in the head. She even created a self-portrait at 14 where she depicted herself negatively and continued adding similar negative comments to her subsequent portraits. She had always been an ostracized, nondescript type of girl, unfashionable, overweight, and with a depressed disposition. Caroline also wrote anguished letters to her estranged father, expressing her deep discontent with her life and feeling worthless. In one letter, she wrote, quote, I feel like a troubled, tortured, lost soul that's been thrown into an alien environment full of angels.
Wow.
Caroline wormed her way into the Barber's world thanks to her younger sister being school friends with one of Rachel's younger sisters. It was through this relationship that Caroline would often babysit the Barber girls. During her time babysitting with the family, Caroline developed an odd obsession with Rachel. The infatuated Caroline once asked Michael and Elizabeth Barber if she could photograph their eldest daughter for a project she was working on. This project was a plot to murder.
Good God.
On the evening of February 28, 1999, Caroline called Rachel and told her that she could make $100 by participating in a psychological study the very next day. She told Rachel to come to her apartment and after her classes at the dance factory, but she warned the 15-year-old that she couldn't tell anyone about the study or she risked compromising the results. Rachel had no idea this offer was part of Caroline's premeditated and elaborate plan to lure the reserved and shy teen into her apartment in order to end her life. In an uncovered journal discovered in Caroline's apartment, she had detailed her plan, writing, quote, "On the way to dance school, say she can't tell anyone that she's meeting me as I'm not allowed to give the study results to anyone. Ethics, highly confidential, not even your boyfriend parent." So Rachel didn't tell anyone where she was going after school on March 1st or even that she had spoken with Caroline. She simply met up with Caroline, rode the tram to her apartment, and enjoyed a slice of pizza, according to Mamma Mia. Court documents later claimed that Rachel's pizza may have been drugged. Caroline,
Mamma Mia was the pizza place.
No, Mamma Mia was one of the articles I got this from.
Oh, okay. I'm with you now. I'm sorry.
No worries. Caroline told Rachel they would begin the study by meditating and thinking about happy and pleasant things. As Rachel closed her eyes and relaxed, Caroline wrapped a telephone cord around her neck and strangled her to death.
Good God.
Caroline then shoved Rachel's body into a wardrobe with the telephone cord still wrapped around her neck, where it stayed for several days. The body was still there when Caroline closed the door to discourage her father from entering the room on one occasion when he visited her after hearing she was sick in the days following the murder. Later, she wrapped the corpse in 2 rugs, stuffed it into an army bag, and hired a taxi to help her move a, quote, statue to her father's property. They traveled to her father's Kilmore farm, where she buried the clothed body in a pet cemetery amid a clutch of trees near a dam strangely close to her pet cat's grave. Meanwhile, police were frantically searching for Rachel. Her family had reported her missing after she failed to return home from school on March 1st, but since she hadn't told anyone about her conversation with Caroline, investigators weren't sure where to start. According to her 16-year-old boyfriend, Emmanuel Corella, Rachel had told him that she was going to a secret job where she would be, quote, well paid. It wasn't long, however, before they were able to track down Rachel's killer. In the days after murdering Rachel, Caroline became withdrawn. She went to work on March 2nd, but she had appeared so ill that a fellow employee drove her home. She called out sick the next few days, lying low at home. At the same time, investigators were trying to trace Rachel's steps on the day of her disappearance, and they soon noticed the phone call from Caroline to the Barber family phone records. And witnesses who had seen Rachel on the tram the night of her death noted that she had been with a, quote, plain-looking woman. A former dance factory student riding the same tram that night later told police, quote, "I remember Rachel looked quite beautiful and that she was striking in contrast with this other girl who was plain-looking."
Well, they're just kind of piling it on.
I know. Detectives went to Caroline's apartment on March 12th and found her unconscious on her bedroom floor. She had suffered from epilepsy and had experienced a seizure, likely brought on by the stress of the murder and its aftermath. In the apartment, the police also found Caroline's journal, which was filled with incriminating material. One entry read, quote, "Drug Rachel, parentheses, toxic over mouth, put body into army bags and disfigure and dump somewhere way out." Another detailed her plan to cover up the murder, quote, "Check farm, including bag, Tuesday arrange bank loan, moving van, night to disguise hair, thoroughly clean house, and steam clean carpet." Alongside these graphic notes, self-loathing Caroline drew pictures of how she perceived herself with hateful words written alongside them. Caroline described herself in them as ugly, fat, and a social failure, and shared her fears that she would be a failure at achieving her dream of acting. She wrote how she hated her life and appearance, and in one posting she wrote, quote, "I feel like a troubled and tortured lost soul thrown into a world of angels." Also with the journal were 2 applications, one for a birth certificate in Rachel's name and another for a $10,000 bank loan. Investigators believed that Caroline's intention was to run off and live under Rachel's identity elsewhere. Instead, she admitted to her crimes on March 13th and was taken into custody to await trial for murder. With the help of Caroline's father, David Reed, detectives found Rachel's buried body, the makeshift garrote cord still wrapped around her neck. Caroline answered no questions put to her during a record of interview and was charged with murder. Evidence came to light suggesting she had planned to take on Rachel's persona and flee Victoria using the alias Jem Southall, who was a character she described in her writings as a 16-year-old, quote, total revhead. Southall was Elizabeth Barber's maiden surname, Rachel's mother.
Mhm.
Caroline's writings revealed how she had profiled Rachel as a, quote, white picket fence, which was a symbol of perfect purity. Quote, Rachel was always wild, let run barefoot in the country, began dating very young. Very talented at classical ballet, rebelled and gave up a few times, tried modeling, dropped out of school early year 9, began new dance school, strikingly attractive dancer's body, very clear pale skin, hypnotic green eyes, dyed hair, lots of different colors. In October of 2000, Caroline was sentenced to 20 years in prison for Rachel's murder. During the court appearance, Caroline described herself as an unhappy and friendless nobody who wanted to be somebody else, who was somebody better. She had become obsessed with Rachel because she felt as though she was the embodiment of pure and everything that she had wished to be. During the court hearing, forensic psychiatrist Justine Barry Walsh said that Caroline was, quote, profoundly disturbed when she murdered Rachel, but was not legally insane. She said, quote, it is possible that she thought she could somehow reinvent herself in the image of the victim. Prosecutor Jeremy Rapke said that the motive was Caroline's obsession with Rachel, her jealousy of her attractiveness, popularity, and success, and perhaps a desire on her part to emulate the success of a younger person with whom she had become infatuated. Judge Frank Vincent noted Caroline's, quote, abnormal, almost obsessional interest in Rachel and stated, quote, I find the deliberation and malevolence which you acted extremely disturbing. Judge Vincent told Caroline at sentencing that Rachel was, quote, was vulnerable to such an approach as you were known to her as a family friend and one-time babysitter, whose motives she would have never expected. You are motivated by envy of Rachel's beauty and her personality, and above all, I am satisfied because you believe she would be likely to have a happy and successful life of a kind you anticipated and you would never experience. The prosecutor cited Caroline's infatuation with Rachel as the motive for murder. He said, quote, it does seem likely that the motive is to be found in the accused's obsession or jealousy of Rachel's attractiveness, popularity, and success. Again, Caroline had never been popular. She, as we had spoken before, she struggled with low self-esteem. She reportedly once painted a portrait of herself that was completely black. By trying to, quote, magically reinvent herself in Rachel's image, as the forensic psychiatrist put it, Caroline perhaps thought she could become as successful and beloved as Rachel had been.
So she was basically trying to steal her life.
Yeah, she wanted to become her.
Mm-hmm.
Caroline was diagnosed with a personality disorder after the murder, with Judge Vincent calling her, quote, a real danger to anyone who may become the unfortunate subject of her fixation. Psychologist Michael Crudson, who treated Caroline in jail, said that his patient revealed that prior to taking the 15-year-old's life, that her fate hadn't been decided. Quote, there is a poignant and disturbing moment in which Rachel Barber's fate seemed to waver in the balance. Caroline told me she had been in a daze. Then just a moment, the veil lifted, and she didn't want to do it. But something said that she was in so much trouble that she had to, and it was though the veil had dropped again. She ended up spending 15 years in prison before she was released on parole in 2015. She's never expressed remorse for her crimes. In fact, she seemingly spent her time behind bars, drastically changing her physical appearance to look more like Rachel.
Oh, wow.
The difference was so stark that Rachel's mother noticed immediately the first time she saw Caroline again, and she said there's a Rachel likeness there. She said, quote, the eyes. A film about the case called I Am You and starring the likes of Sam Neill, Guy Pearce, and Rebecca Gibney was shot in 2009. It was screened on Foxtel's Movie Crime Channel in 2013. And it portrays the events leading up to Rachel's murder and the subsequent trial of Caroline. The film did receive positive reviews for its depiction of the events and the performances of the actors. It was developed from the book The Lost Girl that was written by Rachel's mother, Elizabeth. And that is the story of the murder of Rachel Barber.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of a single white female kind of thing.
Yeah, something similar. Well, okay, I wasn't murdered, obviously, but something similar kind of happened to me. That someone basically moved into my group of friends and became me.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I didn't talk to Wook and Angela and Trey for a long time. It was anyway. I don't want to besmirch anybody out here, but yeah, it kind of happened to me, and it's like, oh wow, I guess that happens more often than not.
Yeah. It's creepy. It's creepy for sure.
Yeah.
Very creepy. Well, thanks for taking that journey with me.
Thank you, sir.
That'll take us to the end of another podcasting week. As always, you can find more about the show on our hub, nerdarymurdery.com. There you can find the links to everything we talked about, plus pictures, giving a little more detail of the topics that we discussed. And you can also find the link to our YouTube page there.
Yes, where I have actually included several episodes of Mulberry, so you can go out and see it and check it out, as well as this episode will eventually be connected to it when it releases.
Awesome. Appreciate all the work you do on that.
Thanks, sir.
You can also find the link to our merchandise page, where if you wish to show off your Nerdery Murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing some of our merchandise. That, along with our Patreon, our patrons do help with the costs that are associated with the show. They don't go to pay for our extravagant vacations, Lamborghinis, or houses. They do go to keeping us on the air. So please do consider purchasing merchandise or becoming a patron.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. And last but not least, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us, helps others find our content that may be looking for the topics that we're discussing. So with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey with your murdery.
Cue the music.